Warning, the Renegade Recruiter is not for the soft, timid, or faint-hearted. If you need permission or seek approval from your mother, spouse, mates in the pub, or anyone else for that matter, this really isn't for you. If any of what you've heard puts you off in the slightest, I advise you not to listen any further. You've been warned. Prepare yourself for the no bullshit, zero fluff. Quick, dirty, and uncensored secrets for any serious recruitment, staffing, and search business owner who wants to earn more money with less work and fewer headaches, without having to kiss ass or bend over backwards to please anyone. He's a relentless and fearless renegade who will stop at nothing to reveal the harsh, unforgiving, and brutal truth about what it really takes to succeed in this business. He's a guy people love to hate and hate to love. It's your host, Terry Edwards. The Renegade Recruiter is unleashed.
So John, welcome back to part 2.
Yeah, marvellous. We had a lot more to say than we thought, didn't we?
Yeah. Just very quickly, for anyone that hasn't yet listened to part 1 of John's interview, I'd recommend going back and listening to that first. It was called Top Dog, Top Dollar Part 1. So yeah, just go and listen to that. If you search it on iTunes or if you're on the website, it's the last show that we did. Anyway, and John, in that show, we sort of finished off talking about premium pricing and premium positioning. And what I really wanted to start off with is, can you sort of explain the link between the two? Why you think the two work so closely hand in hand?
Well, I'd say I probably wouldn't. Would I? I'd almost say they're on a continuum, but they're not really. But I think they're intimately interlinked. So, okay, give you an example. I guess that some of your listeners are probably old enough to remember Mr. Motivator, the celebrity personal trainer used to be on morning television, going back about 25, 30 years now.
I remember him, sir.
Yeah, well, he was a celebrity, and that's part of Premier Positioning. Now, you wouldn't expect him to be working down your local gym for £15 an hour, would you?
No.
Now, if you wanted upfront and personal timing with Mr. Motivator in his light green lycra, you'd expect to be paying a premium. Well, that's a good example, because if someone is a celebrity or seen as an authority and an expert in their field, you expect them to be charging more. And by the same token, if someone who doesn't know who you are and they say, "Hey, Drew, how much do you charge for a day's consulting?" and you can keep a straight face and say, "Well, it's £12,500 a day plus VAT." Well, that's premium pricing. Well, that also says something about at least your own perception of your own quality. So in that respect, the two go hand in hand. One tends to beget the other, and they feed off each other. But of course, they're not. It's not hard and fast, because if you've ever been to rock concerts and nightclubs and things, I know Terry and I are probably getting a bit old for this now. We'll probably stay home with a cup of cocoa and slippers. But
speak for yourself, John. Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, obviously, I wanted this to sound a little bit more sedate than we are, because Terry and I are well known as being the studs of Northampton. Let me tell.
Of the world, John. Of the world.
Of the world. We are the scourge of humanity. We're both about to be granddads as well. But going back to what I was saying, you walk around a rock concerts or nightclubs late at night, and you've got those dreadful burger bars where the beef burgers are ridiculously expensive, but the quality is so low, you wouldn't normally use them for shoe leather. They're made out of pig's trotters and bellends and things. So it's not always the case that a high price confers quality, or the way around. Because, again, we all know very talented people working for too little because they don't understand charging. But all of the things being equal, they do tend to beget each other. Price, rightly or wrongly, says something about quality. Quality, rightly or wrongly, implies something about the expected price you should pay.
Yeah.
John, a question for you. It might sound an obvious question, but it's just, I guess, for those that don't know. In your opinion, why is it important that you're positioned then at the top of the market?
Well, because I don't want to work really, really hard for no money. Put it simply. It's obviously better for the seller because he or she makes more money. That's the given. And with the caveat, he or she is providing great products, excellent service, and the rest of it. Why not? And what's wrong with that? Nothing. That's one thing. But it's not just a benefit to the seller. For instance, I used to be a copywriter, as you know. So I would write sales letters for people, say very simplistically put. But say I was writing sales letters. What do you think it's easier for me to do, from my point of view, to write one £10,000 sales letter, or find 10 clients and sell each of them £1,000 sales letter? So I'm writing 10 £1,000 sales letters. Okay, and then say I've got a month to do it. Say I need 10 grand a month coming into my business. Now, if I've got one sales letter to write in a month, and the guy or the lass is paying me 10 grand to do it, I can spend a fair amount of time polishing it, getting it just right, giving them the results they're paying for and they deserve. If I've got 10 clients and I only got 4 weeks to write 10 sales letters, and out of those 10, it's going to be 80-20, so 2 of them are going to be brilliant, another 2 are going to be complete arseholes, and the rest are going to be somewhere in between. Okay, it means I'm working much, much harder for the same amount of money in that respect. More important than that is I can't serve them. I mean, if I charge people a higher price, I can serve them better. I can give them the attention they deserve.
Yeah.
Right. And then, not going on from that, you tend to get what we call compliance, better compliance. Again, if somebody spent 10 grand on a sales letter, or they're paid up front for a course of dental treatment at £10,000, it is much more likely they're going to go along for every appointment on time, get the work done that's supposed to be done, all the follow-up treatment, take the drugs, do the cleaning routines. Then if they've paid 50 quid, because 50 quid's near the end of that, and they only go back to the dentist if it's hurting. So you get better compliance. If you get better compliance, so in my case, it means they take my stuff and run with it and use it exactly how I say they should use it. They get better results. Well, that's what they're paying for in the first place. So it's actually benefiting them, pay me more.
Yeah, and I think, I can't remember, where, I think, have you got a program called Profit Kickstart? John?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I think you said I listened to that program, and you said a similar thing in that. And for me, I mean, me and Terry both had issues around increasing our prices. Pretty much the same thing that we hear from our clients now, and probably things that you hear every day, John. But it was when you said that it benefits your clients. That was for me personally. I don't know about you, Terry. That was what was a breakthrough for me. That actually, the more you charge, the actually more benefit your clients will get from your services for all the reasons you've just said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and again, let's not get silly about it. You're not going to sell a yogurt for 20,000 quid. Well, then again, you might, I suppose. Yeah. There'll be somebody out there who'll pay it for the right yogurt, And there are cocktails for thousands and thousands of pounds that are just normal cocktails, but they've got maybe a diamond in the bottom of the glass. Stuff like that. And I suppose for the right person in the right circumstances, that would give an experience commensurate with the price. Some Arab sheikh with a string of young blondes on his arm, that kind of thing. So, in all these things, possibly in every case, maybe not in every case, but in the vast majority of cases in the normal world, all of the things being equal, you actually benefit people by charging them more. And they feel better about it too. They brag about it,
Yeah, because there are a percentage of buyers who are premium price buyers who will just buy the premium product or service.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
There are exceptions, but for the most part, if I buy something, I'll tend to go to the top end. I mean, when we went to buy the cave where I'm sitting now, we actually went in to buy a €2,000 shed for storing the company paperwork in, and that shed is in the barn, so it's a shed within a shed. And I saw the lady was in an office, much like I'm in now, and the penny dropped, and I realised that they did office buildings. And I said, you do office buildings? She said, yes. I said, I want one. And all the time, and this is quite funny because it illustrates a really good point we'll no doubt come on to. I basically said, I want one of these, show me a list of what we can have. And I just went down ticking, right-hand column all the way down. I want this, I want that, I want everything. And what else can I have in it? And she was trying to talk me out of spending the money. Well, we do exterior lights, but they're quite expensive. I don't care, I want the exterior lights.
Yeah.
And we have the wood panelling side, I want wood panelling. But it's quite expensive. Fuck off, I want wood panelling. I demand my wood panelling. And she had in front of her a probably almost unique in her experience, I'd imagine. Someone who's literally walked in off the street in his pink jacket. He's got more money than sense to spend on this thing. Because we had at the time. We wanted to get
John.
Yes.
Why are you wearing a pink jacket? Just need to cut in there.
Because that's what I was wearing.
There's never a good reason for wearing a pink jacket, John, ever. Ever.
Well, you asked my boyfriend about that. It was actually the jacket I bought for my gay stepdaughter's wedding, which was brilliant. And it's a really good jacket as well. I look really nice. I'll wear it. We've got Elite coming up. I'll wear it, Sarah, for you.
I can't wait. I'm panting just at the thought of that, John.
I thought you would be. So am I, mate. So am I.
Well, go back to this story. One of my favourite stories, I think it was, pretty certain Kennedy shares about he was working with a client who offered American men foreign brides, and he literally raised his price I think it's from $400 to $4,000 in one leap, just like that, and there was no change.
He went from 40 to 8,000. It's something like a 200-fold increase.
Yeah. And no change whatsoever in the percentage of prospects who were buying, which I think is a really important point there. There was no change whatsoever in his conversion rates. Previous to that, what it meant was he was leaving millions on the floor. Yeah. Yeah,
and what it was, I mean, he noticed that of his existing clientele, 70% of them were truckers buying these Russian mail order brides, as you do. And he figured that if I, he thought to himself, quite smart really, if I just do all my marketing and rebrand the website and all my marketing just aim at this is Russian brides for truckers. You're speaking their language, you're speaking immediately to them and their problem. You can much more tightly focus your message because you can speak of it, and you would only bother speaking about it from a trucker's point of view. And that's how he was able to command those prices. And the thing is, he served the truckers better.
Yeah. And I mean, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think, John, you mentioned before that we can't help but associate high price with good quality. So I think anyone listening to this, when you speak to most business owners, usually they think that their service, their product, their offering is the best. They think it's superior compared to their competitors. They think it's better, but their prices don't reflect that. So again, the question that you may want to ask yourself is if you're the best in the industry, if you want to be perceived as the best in the industry, and you want to serve your clients better, then why aren't you the most expensive?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is another question. It's almost like a trick question. I ask it of people in consultations or even in the round table around Elite and things. Who is the most expensive person in your market? Oh, it's so-and-so. Well, why isn't it you? And if you ask people, and it's a perfectly bloody good question.
Yeah.
Why isn't it you? And there is no rational answer to it. I mean, well, there is, but no one's going to give this one, and that is, well, I'm not actually that good.
Yeah.
Well, who's going to fucking say that?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, my fees are not as high as Dan Kennedy's, and you could quite reasonably ask me, why are your fees not as high as Dan Kennedy's? And the answer is, I'm not as smart as he is.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And
I mean, there are other influences as well. So, like I said, you'd find it very hard to sell a £10,000 yogurt, but I'm sure it can be done.
There's a book that I mentioned the other day. In fact, Drew's already read it. The 80-20 Sales and Marketing by Perry Marshall.
Oh, yes, I've read that too. Yeah.
Yeah, great book, and he gives so many examples in there. As be it going to Starbucks, and you might think the average person spending £5 in Starbucks, and there is a large percentage that are spending that kind of money. But a company like Starbucks will also sell a very expensive coffee machine as well. Because there is a percentage of the market that will pay for that premium coffee machine, which, by the way, we would know better than any other coffee machine. But because it's been sold in Starbucks, they can add the premium to it.
Yeah.
And again, it's
go on.
I was going to say, not taking advantage of that. You're literally leaving millions on the table.
Oh yes, without a doubt. Everybody, and I say this to everyone. We've just had another guy join the Elite. You'll probably meet him, the dog training guy. And I said to him, you need to have the ultra high-end option that costs nothing for you to promote and to promise. And it'll cost you nothing until you actually sell one. But it sells for a ridiculously high thing. And I said, it might be something like, you don't just take the dog for a week and board it. You take the dog on a fucking 5-star holiday. And it's maybe 10 grand. There are idiots out there who'll pay that to have their dogs taken away on holiday,
Yeah.
And the example I usually give is a painter and decorator, because that's a really common run-of-the-mill thing that everyone would say is a really commoditized business that you cannot do premium pricing in. Well, what if the painter and decorator says, we're not just going to paint your house because that's boring. We're going to paint the house. We're going to do all the stuff that painters and decorators do. But we're also going to clean your upholstery, clean your carpets, valet your car, do your garden, your landscape. And if you've got pets, we'll have those boarded and cleaned as well. And we're going to send you to Florida for 2 weeks while we do it. And that's £30,000. Well, again, there are people out there who do it. I probably would. If I was in the market to have a painter and decorator, I would probably do something like that, because I would know way I'm doing it myself. I could do with a holiday anyway. There are far more people willing to pay silly money for these things than you'd imagine. The reason people don't do it, well, there are many reasons. One is they don't believe these people are out there, because they often see their own services being commoditized, or they are actually commoditized. So they think, that they are dealing in they are painter decorators, that's what they see themselves as. Or their marketing is not targeted enough, so they're using like Dan Kennedy says, the scattergun approach, rather than doing what the guy with the truckers did and thinking about, well, let me look at my existing customers and clients. What do they look like? Who are the best ones? I mean, people in the elite group again, I'm not trying to sell it or anything, but we meet this week and there's at least one place free. No, there are no. We are full up at the moment, so there are no places free. My elite group. If you look around the table, and you two will know this, it looks like a very disparate group of people. We've got older people, younger people, black ones, white ones. We've got younger ones and older ones. We've got married couples, and looking around the table, you'd think these people have got nothing in common, but they have. None of them. There's not a single what I would call a wannabe internet marketer in there. It's not that kind of crowd. They are all bricks and mortar businesses. The exceptions are probably people like you and me. We're not. We do deal in information, but we're established. We are not selling cheap €97 ebooks on some crappy website with really overhyped headlines. We've got a copywriter in there, but she's a proper copywriter. She deals with multi-thousand-pound contracts and not, I'll write you 50 emails for 25 quid. Sell them on the Warrior Forum, They're all real business owners, and we've had over the years people with multi-tens of pounds turnover, 10, 15, 25 million pound turnover. They are proper businesses. So my avatar, although again it doesn't look like it, my avatar is very, very clearly defined in my own mind. It's in my book. It's not male or female, but it's a libertarian-minded person, usually 35 and upwards, mostly married because they've got responsibilities, with an established, already successful bricks and mortar, for the most part, business, because that means they'll have money for the fees and money for implementation. Because money for, as you know, elite is not something that you join and then it just happens all by magic. It involves a lot of work. Well, if you can't afford to do the work, you won't do the work, and then it won't work for you.
Yeah.
So, I know exactly what I'm selling to. That's one of the reasons my retention is so high. Because I know exactly what I'm doing. I come across as a bit of an idiot at times, and that's because I'm an idiot. But I'm quite a smart idiot at times, too.
So, John, I mean, just going back to the Mr. Motivator example that you used right at the beginning, how do you go about positioning yourself like that, like for sort of your individual industry? How do you go from being just a run-of-the-mill personal trainer to being the Mr. Motivator that's on TV, that's charging premium fees, that's positioned as the leader in the field?
Well, the really cool thing is, unlike, say, wanting to become the King of England or something, in which case you probably require an army behind you or something, and some kind of lineage that would declare your royalty, you can just assume the mantle of greatness. You can just call yourself an expert. I mean, there are, for the moment, we're going to ignore professions where you need some kind of licensing, so like law, accounting, all the healthcare professions. We can come back to those, and I can tell people what to do about that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, say in my business and your business, we are unregulated. So I can say, I am the leading expert in direct response marketing education in Ireland, and no one can gainsay me. By the same token, someone else can say it if they wish, and we can both sit there saying, no, I am, no, it's me, no, it's not, it's me. But the thing is, people won't. Because people don't realise you can. people will wait, as Dan Kennedy puts it, to be anointed by the expert fairy.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen.
Which that happens. And I think the other thing I'd add to that as well, it's easy to position yourself if you have a defined niche. Now, as you said, if you want to be the king of England, so to speak, that's going to be kind of difficult. But to position yourself as an expert in a defined niche is so much easier, because it is that in that defined niche you literally become a celebrity in whichever niche you decide to operate in. And as you said, it is a lot more easier. But I think one of the key things I'd add to it is you have to make that decision to do it.
Yes. Yeah, and the way I've done it, and the way I suggest people do it, and I'm not saying this is the only way, I'm sure there are probably even ways I haven't thought of, but probably one of the easiest ways is to do what I've done, and everyone I believe in Elite has done, and that is to write a book.
Yeah.
You write a book, and all of a sudden it completely changes the game you're in, because it's not only a fabulous business card, but even the phrase "he wrote the book on it" has passed into the common vernacular. We use it to describe an expert.
Yeah.
That's what we say. Oh yeah, he wrote the book on that.
And John, am I right in saying that everybody in the Elite One has written the book now?
If I have a quick look at the list of names in front of me, if I can dig it up quickly while I'm talking to you.
Because you're absolutely right. It certainly helps us, Drew and I, massively with our marketing. And when clients say, well, why would I use you? I say, well, have you read any of my books? And if they were making a comparison to, say, some of my competitors, I'd say, yeah, sure. But, all I'd say to you is just go and have a look at some of my books on Amazon.
Yes, everybody has. There's one, I mean, most of them are pretty good. There's that Terry Edwards bloke. He's pretty crap, but
he's got three books.
Is that Terry Edwards the author of 3 books, Jonathan?
Yeah, Terence Edwards. Yeah, Grandad Edwards. But yeah, everyone in Elite One has written a book. Everyone. Or had one ghostwritten for them.
Yeah, again, and that's the point as well. I think anyone listening to this who's thinking, John, what you're saying is all well and good, but I'm not a writer. I can't write a book. Again, you can get it ghostwritten for you. Yeah,
I mean, there's 101 different ways to write a book, many of which don't actually involve you writing it at all. You're quite right on that. Yeah. And then once you've got the book, you see what that does. It's not just because the mistake most people make is when they write the book, and then they just treat it as another product. When it's not, it's your primary marketing tool. So what happens is your entire marketing strategy should change. And what you do is you write the book, obviously on your niche and in your expertise, using your expertise. But you then use it. It's also a really fucking long sales letter. It markets you tastefully as being the expert. It explicitly positions you as the expert. So the book markets you or your business, and then you can focus solely on marketing the book. Yeah, Dan Kennedy says this, and I've had this discussion with people before. I've said it to Elite, I've said it in my newsletters, I've said it on my teleclasses, and most people seem to be missing it or ignoring it and letting it pass them by. It's a big mistake because it's huge. Dan Kennedy said in one of his books, I think it's the book Right to Business, he wrote with a guy called Adam Whitty.
Yeah, good book.
And yeah, it is good. And again, it doesn't tell us anything we don't already know, but it nicely codifies things. So in this book, he says that his best customers and clients come through his books. Now, I'm a classic example, and I'm not typical maybe, but I'm not unique. There are many more out there like me, I'm sure, in this respect at least. And that is, I read his books, I like what I saw, I bought more of them, I joined his inner circle, his lower end offering. I then went to a super conference, I went to another super conference, I went to a Renegade Millionaire, took a bit of a hiatus, read more of his books, joined his thing again. I did a day's consulting with him at vast expense last November. I did an event with him in a couple of 4 weeks' time. I'm going to his Renegade Millionaire 2.0 in June. So, I mean, I guess over time I've been into Dan Kennedy for probably the best part of £75,000. All through reading a book. Well, you are not going to get that level of buy-in and commitment from someone. Well, I say you're not. It's less likely to get that kind of buy-in from just a crappy ad on Facebook and a sales letter and cheapskate Me Too marketing.
Yeah.
In the book, as you know, you said it's a great book, so obviously you've read it. Dan talks about why this is. And, book readers tend to be more intelligent. They're more willing to invest in themselves and in their time and their money. They're more thoughtful about things. They're learners. They tend to be implementers. They're more studied in their approach. All these things, all these reasons. And this is why I say everyone should write a book.
Yeah. And it does give you one that I think as I kind of touched on is that competitive edge. As you know, you're the author in comparison to your competitors who just do the doing, so to speak. Some really good points there.
Yeah, and I mean another mistake people make, and it follows on from what I said before about, and they get it. They don't really seem to realise that it changes the marketing game. They should be prepared to give the book away. I mean, my book is 365 pages. Which is thicker than most. I'd say I wouldn't go below 150 because then it's more like a pamphlet. But a 150-page book costs you about £2 or something to print, perhaps less than that. I've seen business cards that cost much more than that.
Yeah.
The golden, black and gold, shiny, glossy ones, they cost about £3 or £4, and I'm going back probably 15 years. So it's a cheap way to get a fabulous business card, if you like, into someone's hands. I could get a copy of my book, and mine's a big thick one, Terry.
I'm really disturbed you shared that with me, but go on.
Mine's a big thick one. I could get it in someone's hands for about £11, and that includes the advertising. Well, that's not a bad price to pay for a somewhat warm lead with a postal address. And if I got them to pay for it with the shipping, it cost me something like £14. So for £14, I can get a buyer, which is, again, in my industry, in my particular business, because my focus is ultimately on the high-end events, elite things like that, is a fair price to pay.
You're listening to the Renegade Recruiter Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.therenegaderecruiter.com.
I'll happily pay £14 to get a book in someone's hands. Now, it's nice when you sell a copy on Amazon. You sell a book that's cost you £2.85 plus a few quid shipping for £25. That's nice. But you never, I mean, with rare exception, you're not going to get rich out of selling your books. That's the mistake that most people make. They write the book and think, hey, I've got a product to sell. What do we do with products when we sell them? We make money. Oh, no, let's make some money selling the book. It's not how it works, usually.
No, very true. And you literally have to sell thousands to make it worthwhile. And again, going back to the book you were talking about with Dan Kennedy and Adam Whitty, is that such a small percentage of the book writers actually achieve that, and become the J.K. Rowling of their industry just from book writing.
Yes, it's so rare. It's virtually zero.
Yeah.
But you might as well zero.
By the way, if you want a free copy of John's book, Grow Your Business Fast, you go to growyourbusinessfast.com/free. That's growyourbusinessfast.com/free, and you can get a free copy of John's book over there. John, one thing that you've sort of touched on a few times during this interview is your elite group. Obviously, you've mentioned, if anyone doesn't know, me and Terry are both members of your elite group and have been for, 2 or 3 years? Since the beginning.
We're in our fourth year, yeah.
3 years, and as you said, everyone in that group are authors. Everyone's getting really good results in their business. Again, you inspired us to create our own elite group with our own clients. From your point of view, why do you think that the elite process, what goes on in the meetings, why do you think it's so powerful?
I think it's so powerful in general because it's focused on implementation, doing. It's not a motivational kind of group, is it?
No.
We do motivate each other, but that's not the primary purpose of it. And it's a very honest kind of group. So it's a very safe environment. So people, they will come in and they feel free and feel comfortable and safe in. I was just saying, exposing themselves, exposing their weaknesses and their fears, and they know it won't go beyond the walls of the group. So from that perspective, it means people. I don't know really to answer your question. Well, I mean, so many reasons. One is because it's very much focused. It's very regimented. in the way we approach it. We've got a fixed formula of how we do things. We've got the goals and challenges. We've got the phone calls I have every week, every month with me. We encourage the buddy system. So it's very much focused on getting stuff done. Really, it's not a teaching group; it's an implementation group.
Yeah.
And I think the other reason it works so well is that, as I said at the beginning, I am very, very careful about, I'm very focused in my avatars, who I want in my business, and my selection criteria for elite is very tight. I think we may have spoken about this in the last podcast, but for instance, I always say to people, I make it very clear that it's not just a matter of whether you can afford the fees or not. But it's £1,000 a month, sorry, £1,200 a month for the fees, but you need the same available to do the implementation. So if you haven't got £2,500 sloshing around in your business available every month, then there's no point in you joining, because you won't get the most out of it. So there's that. I'm very clear. The other thing is that I've said to people, I think I said it to you last week, whatever it was, I won't accept anyone into the group I am not personally willing to sit with in the bar one-on-one for an evening drinking Guinness, because that's entirely likely that will happen at some point. And I wouldn't enjoy the experience of talking to a dickhead for a night, and two, it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to be taking their money and not treating them the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
And this has happened. We had a guy his girlfriend was very ill and she's since died, and I sat up one night till probably 5 o'clock in the morning just talking to this guy, and the conversation changed his life, his entire approach to her illness and the rest of it. I think another thing, and this is going to sound terribly twee, I suppose, and trite, but the other thing is I actually do care about it. I know this goes back to what I was saying about drinking in the bar with them. I can only think of one person who's come into Elite that I didn't feel this with, and he didn't last very long. But everyone in the group, both groups, I count them among my friends. I like them and I care about their businesses. I'm not saying I'm taking on responsibility of solving their problems, because that's not the way it works. But I do care, and I will always go, above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that people are okay.
And speaking as a member of the Elite, and one big thing it did for us is that accountability, and just sitting in that room with like-minded beings. I think running the business is a pretty lonely idea, isn't it? Because most of the time you're on your own, and you get in the room with like-minded individuals, and you share your challenges. And sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. And I know Drew and I, we've sat in on the hot seat, and the guys have said things you've just thought, bloody hell, it's kind of bloody obvious, or bleeding obvious, as they say. You just don't see it when it's your business and you're kind of in the thick of it. And people just say, other members say stuff, and you think, bloody hell. And it literally has transformed the way that we do everything. Just by having outsiders look at your business saying, have you considered this? And you go, I'm rather embarrassed to say that I haven't.
I had exactly the same experience with Dan Kennedy on the day's consulting. He was coming out with stuff saying, this is because the way Dan worked, he basically, a lot of the time, he basically told me stories of past experiences, and they weren't just random, tales of how great he is. They were stories that illustrated points we were talking about. And you think in 40 years, and I mean, Dan is ridiculously prolific. And in 40 years of being that prolific, Dan has probably seen everything you ever like to see in marketing. Yeah. So if we get talking about how do you increase retention, he'd come out with a load of stories about how people have done it. And that's a fabulously powerful way of teaching, which is effectively what he was doing in consulting. And he was coming out with problems that have been solved that I have got in my business that I would never have thought of in a million years. And even some things that are wrong. I mean, without naming any names or going into any detail because it wouldn't be appropriate. There was one thing I didn't do in my own business, and the reason I didn't do it is because the guy that I looked up to quite a bit at the time wasn't doing it, and he told me why he wasn't doing it. And the reason he wasn't doing it was because he was fucking wrong. I assumed he wasn't, because he knew what he was doing. But Dan told me why he was wrong, and it makes sense. You were party to the discussion last time, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, And I think from my personal point of view, a reason I think Elite's so powerful is because although you get a lot of good advice during the meetings and during the hot seat, sometimes you could just be having a conversation with someone at the bar or over dinner, and they say just one comment that to them is nothing. It's just a sort of throwaway comment. Again, I've said it to you many times, John, after calls with you, and it literally just sort of hits the nail on the head, and it just sort of transforms the way you were thinking about a certain problem or a certain issue that you had in your business. And yeah, for me, that's one of the biggest benefits you get. It's just the conversations outside of the meeting, almost outside of the hot seats.
Yes, yeah. I mean, people have said that all along, and people. And again, I don't really push this side of it, and I don't certainly get involved in it. And I don't encourage it or discourage it. I just leave it. It's just neutral to me. But some people even do business within the group. There's like Vicky mentioned before. She did a lot of copywriting for a lot of the group members. Mo does a lot of the products and stuff. And we had Bill the printer in for a while. So people, it's not a networking group, but it does serve that purpose at times. And the thing is, the best thing about that for me, and why I guess I would encourage it if I was asked, I suppose, is that because of people's mindset, the libertarian mindset, and the fact we tend to be I hesitate to say it's a level above everybody else because it doesn't actually mean anything, but we tend to be thinking slightly differently from most people, and we tend to have more honesty and integrity. And because we would actually care what the group thought, you're more likely to get a good outcome with working with people in the group. Because you're not going to get screwed over because they know it would go around very quickly and it would reflect very badly on them.
Yeah.
To the point where if someone did a really bad thing, I'll kick them out. So, I don't want that kind of thing in my groups.
Mm.
And by the same token, we are in the hotel, as you know, it gets quite rowdy at times. But we've got a great relationship with the staff and the management, and we treat the staff very, very well indeed. And that won't ever change. And if it ever did, I would genuinely, I would kick someone out of the group if they were disrespectful to the staff in the hotel, because they say that some customers are. Zach Kerry says he gets loads of racial abuse apparently.
Really?
From some people, yeah. Whereas to us, he's golden, isn't he? He's brilliant.
Yeah.
And a great quote I once saw about masterminds is no two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third invisible powerful mind. And I thought that was so true.
Napoleon Hill?
Sorry, John?
Was that Napoleon Hill?
I believe it is actually, yeah.
The sum of the parts is the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, without a doubt. A really classic good example is last time we had one of our members was owed £16,000 by someone, and they were prevaricating and they were basically stonewalling, and she got advice in the meeting, and then in the lunchtime she went away and did all the legal paperwork online and came back, and having done it, having taken this great advice, and that is now been sorted. They've paid up. She got an email back from these people saying, "Oh, we were just going to pay you an instalment, but since you've been so nasty taking us to court, we won't bother." And we all took one look at that and said, "Well, they've just fucked themselves." They've essentially admitted the liability.
Yeah.
And imagine that getting in front of a judge who's not going to want his or her time wasting. Why are we sitting here discussing this when you are obviously just being an arsehole? So anyway, that's been sorted out now. But she got that advice. She was, and do I do it, do I don't? And I feel bad about being nasty to people. Well, you're not being nasty, asking for your money. Especially it cost. I mean, she obviously makes a decent markup, but she'd have been still like $5,500 out of pocket if she hadn't got the money off them.
Yeah, excellent.
But I mean, going into detail, as a lot of people have often said about these groups, and anyone listening to this, if they're thinking of doing it themselves, that the hard thing about elite or an elite type group, I actually find it quite easy because of the way it's been structured, is retention.
Yeah.
Keeping people coming in, or keeping them in once they are in. That can be a problem. And in fact, even in my own limited group, we've got Elite 1 and Elite 2. Retention in Elite 1 has been far better than retention in Elite 2. And there are some very good reasons for that, I believe. But even in Elite 2, as an industry, compared to industry numbers, my numbers are ridiculous. I think ridiculously good, not ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
And going back to pricing and what do you say to people who say, but John, if I'm the most expensive, doesn't that mean I'm going to get less business than my cheaper competitors?
Probably. Yeah, that's a good thing. It's like I said. I mean, you can argue that a £10,000 sales letter is less business than 10 £1,000 sales letter. But I know which one I'd rather be doing.
Yeah.
There is, but that's actually another way of looking into a very, very common fallacy in business. And that is that they can drop the price and make up any shortfall in volume. Well, you can't. Because if you drop, you've seen the numbers. I always use these numbers. If you drop say you're on a 35% markup, which is about right for most businesses in most industries. It's not unreasonable for any business, really. 35% markup. If you decrease your prices by just 10%, you decrease your profits by nearly 40%. Well, you're then trying to tell me you can increase your volume by 40% to get back to where you were and not feel that in some way? Bearing in mind, even a price cut isn't likely to get you that much volume. But if it did, do you want that much business? Because price buyers, they're shitty. They are cheap buyers. They are hard to satisfy. They are slow to pay if they pay at all. They always want more for less.
Yeah.
And you start to be, and they don't get the results. The guy who I did some work with, my personal trainer. And he got me fabulous results. And I paid him a lot of money. And that's one of the reasons it worked so well. Because I just paid him all this money, and he's gave me a shopping list of mostly legal chemicals to buy and things, and dietary regime and exercise. He says, this is what you do. And we checked in every week, and we spoke most days over WhatsApp. And because I paid him all this money, well, that's what I did. I did it letter for letter, word for word. And with a few changes, because I couldn't do some exercise because I've got gammy toes with it. And you see, it worked fabulously. But he was complaining to me the other day about one client he's got, who's one of these people who says, well, yeah, there's 10 things on this list, but I like 7 of them, but can I just do those 7 and not the other 3? And Phil says no. So he doesn't do the other 3 anyway. And he goes, well, it's not really working for me. Well, that's because you're not doing the fucking 10. Okay? Well, if you've got price buyers, because this guy is on quite a low monthly fee, price buyers do that. That's what they're like. If you've got someone that comes to you and you say, well, it's 10 grand to get this project done over 3 months, you do exactly as I say. If you change one word, dot one I, cross one T that I've not dotted or crossed, you lose any guarantee of service level guarantee. That's it, we're done. And you don't get your money back. They'll do as you tell them, all right? Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, Dan Kennedy's got a really good phrase that he uses. Again, I think he may have used it last time. People are walking around with an umbilical cord in their hand looking for somewhere to plug it in. And if you've got the authority from your positioning, and price itself confers a certain authority, because you've got to be someone to be charging those prices. If you've got authority and you tell people how it's going to be and how they're going to behave, and they actually like it. It's not like a woman we have to slap around sometimes, but it's.
And John, in your business personally, what's been the biggest breakthrough in your business over the past 12 months?
The past 12 months? Well, I guess over the last 12 months, it's really it's really going to see Dan and this event with Dan, because the event itself, it will probably make me a small profit. Not a huge one, for sure. And it's a lot of time and trouble, obviously. And it was quite speculative, so there's quite a lot of upfront expense for me, which I've now covered. But the benefit of the event will not be the event itself. The benefit will be the kudos I get from having done the event with Dan Kennedy.
Yeah.
And that's going to be massive. And the experience of doing it as well. So really, I suppose the biggest breakthrough for me was realising that I needed to spend some time with Dan. I had the money to do it, and I've been kicking the idea around. And then he actually got in touch with me, which made it really, really easy. He was courting me, not the other way around. but there are reasons, and people listening to this might think, "Oh, John's just been sitting on his laurels." There are reasons that your listeners won't understand, so probably it's best to explain. As you know, because you've been in elite, my youngest daughter suffered some pretty serious mental health issues over the last 3 years, nearly now. 3 years in May.
Yeah.
So since May 2014, was it? Yes, May 2014. Most of my life has been focused first on getting my daughter over here to live with me, which was a struggle in itself. It took 6 months, and then ensuring her welfare. So my business has really been on ice for the most part. It's about 2.5 years. So I haven't been working on it anywhere near as hard as I should. But it's testament to what I've done in the past, and that's things that we've talked about: premium pricing, 80/20, premium positioning, all those kind of things. And the solidity of the elite groups. It's testament to all that I can actually afford the luxury of taking my eye off the ball so comprehensively for so long, and still have a business to come back to.
Brilliant.
Now, if you were to ask me, perhaps a better question, if you were to ask me what has been the most effective thing or the most important thing in my business, full stop, which I think is probably a better question, to be honest.
I don't think there's anything wrong with my question, to be honest, John.
Say again?
I said I don't think there's anything wrong with my questions, actually.
Yeah. Smarty pants, you can answer the fuckers yourself.
But yeah, what's been the biggest breakthrough?
Terry, will you tell your lad? You sort it out. You're not a father yet, mate. When you're a father, you can start talking like that. Right, seriously. Probably the most powerful thing I've ever done is the three things we've really been talking about: 80/20, premium positioning, premium pricing. But I suppose underpinning a lot of that, especially the positioning one, is authenticity. I can remember the day I decided no longer was I going to wear the suit and do the nice things because that's what business owners are supposed to be like. I came back from I keep mentioning Dan a lot, obviously it's top of consciousness. Came back from a Dan Kennedy super conference and I ripped my tie off like you see in the movies, threw my suit in the corner, says never again. I fired my clients and I started being a complete arsehole, just myself. Not rude and not dishonest and things, but I just decided running the business my way because I recognised that the business exists for me, to support me, my lifestyle, not the other way around. I don't live to support the business and then by extension my clients. Yeah, I serve my clients, but I have the right, if I so wish, to shut up shop completely, and if I wanted to, let Elite just disappear into the ether. That's my right. And I remember very early on in the Elite, somebody who no longer comes along, this guy was only a guest as well, which made it all the more annoying, and made some comment about some stuff that didn't like. I think I was going to bed too early and not spending enough time in the bar, something like that. And I wrote a stinging fax the next Monday. Basically pointed out, it's my group, my rules. You don't like it, fuck off.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude I take to my business, and I have all along. And you don't always have to be that blunt. I will be that blunt. And I have been, and I will be. Anytime I need to be. You don't always need to be. But that is my attitude. My business, my rules.
Brilliant.
Now that itself is very powerful because most business owners don't treat their business like that at all. The customer is always right is the most perniciously wrong things business owners are taught.
Yeah. And I've worked for some big corporates, and that was constantly drummed into us. The customer's always right. Well, if you just think about it intellectually, that's impossible. They can't all be right all the time.
Oh, and often your customer's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Well, think of it this way: your customers come to you, especially in our kind of business. We're not just I say just plumbers. Plumbers are very skilled people, but we are not just the hired help here to sweep the floors. We are experts in our niche. We've done the 10,000 hours thing. If you're coming to us for expert advice, and we tell you that you're wrong, it's at least worth entertaining the idea you might be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, again, that comes down to positioning as well, doesn't it? Are you going to be hired as the expert, or are you going to be hired as a hired help?
Yeah, I actually use those phrases quite a lot. Yeah, because they epitomise it quite well. And it's almost. I hate to use this because we all know the law of attraction is a load of bullshit and the rest of it. But you will be amazed. It's almost like magic when you change your attitude and you run your business along those lines. And you have a core message that goes out into the ether, if you like. And you live your values and you demonstrate your values, and everyone knows what they are, whether they like them or not doesn't matter. It changes everything. I don't even get hate mail anymore.
Really?
I'll soon change that. What's your email address, John?
I very rarely get hate mail anymore because I've set my funnel up so well right at the beginning. They know that if they do send me hate mail, the best they can expect is to be ignored. The worst they can expect is to have an email written about them, naming and shaming them for what idiots they are, and to be mocked publicly. As I said to some guy once, you mean so little to me. I don't even care if you're unhappy.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Again, I'd really strongly recommend you go and get a copy of John's book. If you go to growyourbusinessfast.com, you can get a free copy over there. That's growyourbusinessfast.com/free. Terry, do you have any more questions for John?
Yeah, I've just got one more. I think I know the answer, but I've got to ask it anyway. And the question is...
This is going to be sensible, isn't
it? Jonathan, the question, what's the best piece of advice you've been given from a mentor, and who was that mentor?
It was Dan Kennedy.
Thought so.
And it was just an almost throwaway phrase. You read it in various places. I do shamelessly use it myself. And I may be paraphrasing because it's used so often. And it also epitomizes and sums up so many different aspects of what we've been talking about today. And that is, the only people's opinions that count are the people who are giving me money.
Yeah.
People on my list, they don't send hate mail, but they'll sometimes send friendly advice. You could swear a little bit less, that kind of thing. Well, I don't. If they're not giving me money, I don't care. Why would I even be interested? Why are you bothering with me? Me with the store. What prompts them to sit down and write these things? It's like people who ring up the BBC switchboard. I watched this program for 3 hours yesterday, and it was hardcore animal porn all the way through. I'm disgusted.
Yeah, there was actually somebody who you know Babe Station. You guys know? Yeah, so Babe Station is basically a channel where there's I guess semi-naked women on TV, and someone actually rang and complained because one of them accidentally flashed their vagina.
Right.
It's like, why are you watching it to complain about that of all things?
I know. I mean, you're asking the wrong bloke. So I've got no idea what goes on in people's minds when they're thinking. Yeah. And if you don't like it, just turn the telly off. Don't watch it again. Very simple. But yeah, it's the idea that the only people whose opinions count are the people who are paying you money. And even then, it's not. If they are breaking your rules, even then you can tell them to sling the rope.
Yeah.
But certainly, people who are not paying you money, why would you care? Why would you care?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Excellent. John, as usual, fantastic.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Time goes really, really quickly. Which is surprising considering what boring pair you are.
Brilliant. Again, John, thanks a lot. And again, to get a free copy of John's book, go to growyourbusinessfast.com/free. That's growyourbusinessfast.com/free.
Oh, that's cool. And anytime you want to do this again, guys, just let me know. Always up for it.
Brilliant. Will.
Thanks for that, John. Really appreciate it. Seriously, mate. Thank you ever so much for today, and for last week. I can't believe we've sat for you for 2 hours.
And you're still talking to me.
Unbelievable.
Amazing. And I'll see you guys in a week today.
Your life is almost complete, John.
It will be complete then, Terence. It will be complete then.